America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, item number 1 is our first public budget hearing of the 24-25 school year, and we'll turn that over to Miss Susie.
Thank y'all. I don't like this, I'm going to push it away from me here a little bit, but he says he has to have it, so there we go. I'm just going to go through it. If you have any questions or anything you want more explanation on, just stop me and we'll talk about it here. But if you have anything, just let me know. This is just saying this is our first public budget hearing. We have to have 2, as you know, in accordance with the Code of Alabama, so this is our first one. The second one we intend to be at the beginning of the next board meeting, and then it will be presented to you for approval for the coming year. This is for the fiscal year 2025, which begins October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. In your packets, I gave you the blue folders. It has the presentations in there. It also has all the reports that list. There's a summary report for the entire district, and there's a report for every school that lists the total monies allocated by the state, the total number of units, and then at the bottom is a section that lists every teacher, librarian, administrator, counselor, support, every employee that's at your school and how they're funded. Doesn't list names, but it lists numbers. So you'll see the matrix at the bottom that tells how many you have for each employee type and how they're funded to know your total for every one of them. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But also behind that are the printouts that show a detailed expenditure report for each school individually as well. As we talked about before, we have 5 major fund types: the general, special revenue, capital projects, debt service, and expendable trust. The main one we're going to talk about is general fund because that's where our local taxes and state foundation funds are. Special revenue includes our local schools and federal monies, child nutrition program, those kind of things. So most everything in this has to deal with the general fund. Our allocations that come from the state this year, as you can see, our enrollment was up 88 students, which led to an additional 5 teachers, and then because they changed the divisors a little bit this year, it added some additional assistant principals. So we increased our total state-funded units by 10.5 this year. That equates to, as you can see in this one, since we had a higher number of units in ADM, our total state funding increased by $3.2 million. The local match portion down at the bottom shows the amount of the 10 mil match that we have to provide from our ad valorem tax. And since the value of our millage keeps going up, you can see that the value of our 10 mil also went up. So we got an additional $3.2 million from state foundation funds, but we're also having to input an additional $1.5 million of our local match funds from the 10 mil match. But that comes from the ad valorem tax we get from the Revenue Commissioner every year. Our total budgeted revenues, this is all funding sources from general, special revenue, capital projects, and debt service. We have budgeted $132 million for this year. As you can tell from the next slide we have here, 63% of it comes from the state. So most of our 63% or $83 million comes from the state. Second being local. The local includes our sales tax and our ad valorem tax, some other minor, smaller taxes, and those kinds of things. But mainly the local is sales and ad valorem. And that is 28% of our total budget. So as you can see, the majority of our budget is state and local. This is strictly general fund revenues here, and only in the general fund, which is where we mainly do most of our general fund operations out of. As you can see, 72% comes from the state, and $30 million of it is from local. So 28% is coming from local, and almost all, with the exception of about $200,000 of the local, is sales tax and ad valorem. I've got that broken down in a minute, but most all of that is sales and ad valorem. The federal money that's in here is strictly the ROTC money that we get for part of our ROTC teachers. That comes in there. The state funds that are up there include our foundation money, our technology money, the state nurses, at-risk, Career Tech O&M, transportation. Those are the things that are in those state funds. This is our major local revenue. As I said, the $30,200,000. As you can see, 60% of that is sales tax, or $18.2 million. Ad valorem is about 38% or $11.3 million. I just added this in here as kind of a trend of how our sales tax has been doing to show how I came to the, what we did for budgeted this year. As you can tell, it peaked in 2022, and Mr. Neighbors was asking how we knew. You know, we watched it every month to kind of see what sales tax is doing, and we knew once it went up, it was going to eventually drop back down a little bit. In 2022, it did. It pretty much peaked. It went back down. I'm sorry, in 2023, it pretty much peaked. 24, it's down this year about 7% from what it was last year. But in those decreases, we kind of accounted for that, looking month by month and how much we were doing. So for the next year, we've only budgeted about 18 million, 18.2 in there, which is 3.5% lower than what last year's was. As I had told you in the monthly report, sales tax is down from what it has been in the past, but we had a feeling it was going to go down, so we had budgeted, and right now what we're receiving in sales tax is in line with what we had budgeted for this year. So I think by decreasing an additional 3.5% for next year, we should be okay, but I'll watch it, and if we need to make adjustments for the budget amendment, we will. Ad valorem, on the other hand, continues to go up because it's always based on your property values. So as you know, as property values go up, our ad valorem tax goes up. And as you can see from looking at this, every year, that's our 3 different types of ad valorem tax. In '23, it was up about 19% from the year before. '24, it's up about 13%. For next year, I try to be conservative. I have only increased it about 3.5% for next year. I got the abstracts from the Revenue Commissioner, and the abstracts are actually up a little over 5%, but we want to keep it conservative, so I just put in an additional increase of 3.5% on this one. Those are the numbers how I came to of what we were budgeting to come to our ad valorem and sales tax. I just want you to know the trends we were looking at and why we were coming with what we did. Some of the other state funding, these are the others outside the foundation program, and as you can tell from most everything on here, there's a slight increase in everything except for state preschool. The state preschool is the state special ed funding. It's down a little this year, but I told Dr. Barnett earlier, it was up significantly last year. So I want to say about 70,000 last year. So even going down 15,000, that's not even anywhere near to what it had been in the past. So I think that's still, pretty reasonable. The reading initiative, Alabama Reading Initiative, that still covers 11 reading coaches. They increased that amount from 88,000 last year to 90 some. I think it's 90,000 this year is what they gave for each one of them. So they've increased it a little bit. That's why each one of those are up. Okay. This is some of the supplemental appropriations we've got this year. The first one is the A&T funds that Dr. Barnett mentioned in the capital projects meeting. We have $9.5 million in that. All 3 of these that are here, the A&T, the supplemental textbooks, and supplemental nursing, these are all supplemental appropriations besides what the state has been giving in the past. They've given that early, actually. We received notice yesterday that we should have these funds within the next couple of days. So I want to tell you that because this is right at $10 million here that it's going to be in our fund balance at the end of this year. So by September 30th, we're going to have $10 million more than what we do right now, but we're not going to spend this till next year. So when you look at the budget summary in a minute as you get through here, it's going to look like we're spending $8.5 million more than we're taking in for this year, but we're really not. We're just getting some of it early because of the timing of when it's coming in versus when we're spending it. Does that make sense? But these funds, the A&T money, the $9.5 million, we had budgeted in there for it to be used for the capital projects he talked about, to help pay for insurance, for some deferred maintenance, and some safety items. Those were what we had in that. The supplemental textbooks is strictly for supplemental textbooks, and we're going to need it next year because I think it's a big adoption year for textbooks, so that's what that's for. And the supplemental nursing, they gave that to help close that gap since they gave the big raises for nurses last year, and they did not increase funding enough to cover all of those. So the supplemental nursing is to help close that gap for what that minimum salary metric was. Okay. These are some of our federal funds. The 25 allocation versus the 24 allocation, and as I told Dr. Barnett, yes, Title I, we gained a whopping $133. That nowhere near covers the 2% raise for our people that are out of the federal money, out of the Title I money. So all that being said, we likely have to move some of those units that have been being paid with title. They'll have to be shifted over back to local because with $133, it doesn't even cover a portion of any of the raises. Same thing for preschool, IDEA preschool. It was only $392 and only $2,000 for IDEA Part B. So none of those cover the raises we had in those. So it's kind of, even though it's an increase, it's really not, because when you take into account the extra cost. And of course, as you see here, we will not have the ESSER 3 reserves or ESSER 3 next year. So both of those are gone. I just want to kind of let you see how federal is trending there. Okay, our proposed general fund expenditures, this is by type. As you can see, most all of ours is salaries. And when you're looking at salaries, well, I did this one different. Salaries and benefits, purchase services, material supplies, capital outlay. You see capital outlay is $5 million more than it was last year. This is because it's in the general fund, and this is where the A&T funds are. So that $7.6 million there includes some of the money that we have in A&T to pay for those projects we were planning to pay out of that. Okay. Overall, of all of our expenditures, almost 53% goes for instruction. So you can see in looking at this, that's our pie chart of just how much it is. And everything else kind of falls from that, down to even our total budget, total expenditures for general fund. Mine's covered up here, of $118 million. 700,000 of that for capital projects out of the general fund is not really a lot, but most of it does go for instruction and instructional salaries. Okay. This is just a summary. This is the chart that's at the bottom of one of those sheets I gave you that's in your pamphlet. Like I said, the first one is a summary of the entire school system. At the very bottom, you'll see this matrix that we've got here that shows the teachers by type and then how they're funded. This is overall. So overall, you see that we have a total of 1,251.5 employees and how they're each one are funded. The state earned amount that we have there of 645.4 is the ones the state funds. The other state are the ones that are funded by either ARI or transportation funding or other state funds that we have. Federal are funded by Title I, Title II, Child Nutrition Program, all of those. Then the local are what we fund locally. When you see that number there, that is not, that includes all local units, whether it be certified here, whether it be certified at schools. It's all local units that we're paying out of these funds. And then the total, of course, is all that. If you want to see how they're funded at each school, there's also a summary sheet in there for each of your schools that you can look at and see how many state units they have, how many federal units they have, and that kind of thing. So it'll be in that report as well.
Susie, before you go to another slide, some of the board members may hear me talk about 1,500 employees sometimes. This doesn't include our part-time, like our
No.
substitutes and
No.
people like that. So we have, when you think of everybody that could possibly be getting paid by our school system, we're over 1,500 people.
Yes, this is strictly employees that get a check every month, all the time, not counting the subs and those kind of things. Okay. And that local that shows on there, that is down from last year, even after having to move some of those title units around. So that is still lower than last year's was. This just shows our classroom instructional supply allocations and how much they've given. These are the amounts that is allocated by the states. $900 per teacher for student materials, $500 for technology, $157 for library enhancement, $100 for PD, $100 for common purchases, and then $100 per ADM for textbooks. This is what they allocated, but we actually send those amounts to all teachers. So the local units that we have, we're actually funding those amounts out of local as well, because we can't pick and choose and say, you're local, you're state, you get money, you don't. So we fund it all from there. But this is what the state gave for each one of these items. As we talked about earlier, these are some of the construction projects I know we have ongoing right now that are not completely had the final payments paid. So these are some of the ones that we either have ongoing or will be starting in the near future for the next year and what we anticipate.
The ribbon cutting for Beaumont is Monday. What time? 1:30. Monday at 1:30, we're going to be doing a ribbon cutting at Beaumont High School. New addition to the
This just shows our half-cent sales tax. Same thing on these, we're splitting them, budgeted them just like we have in the past, 60% for instruction and technology, 20% to the local schools, and 20% to, for maintenance issues. The local schools, we're doing the same thing. We're splitting it based on the ADM, and we'll send them a check out the first part of October for their portion of the half-cent sales tax. And then the overall budget summary, this is just a summary. There's actual detailed one in your handout that you have, but this is just a summary of it. And as I mentioned earlier, as you look in the general column, you'll see that excess revenue over expenditures is 8.8 million. They are looking like we spent more than we brought in, but we didn't. It's because we're actually getting about 10 million this year that we'll actually spend next year. So that's why that looks the way it does. And you'll see a budget at the beginning balance at 40 million, which right now our beginning balance is right at 30 million. So that's why that beginning budgeted number is higher than what we show on our monthly financials right now, because we know that 10 million will come in the next couple of weeks. And just some high points, as I said, we projected beginning balance at 40 million. This includes the supplemental appropriations. Ending fund balance, we expect to end at 31 million, which is a little higher than what we are, or right at where we are right now. We'll be transferring some out to CMP for pass-throughs. I've only budgeted this. If we don't need it for CMP to have the 1 month reserve, we will not pass it through, but I budgeted it because I'd rather have it in there and know that expense may come out than to not in the end. PHIP remained the same, $9,600 per employee, and the retirement batch went up for both Tier 1 and Tier 2. And that's all I have on that. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they want more on? If you think of anything, let me know. Shoot me an email, call me. If you have anything you want me to look at, changing or adding, let me know, and we'll work on it before the next budget hearing. Be glad to talk about it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Item number 2, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval of the July 11th board minutes.
Heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed, no. Motion passes. Item number 3 through number 14, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval of the personnel items listed in items 3 through 14.
I heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? Any discussion? All in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed, no. Motion passes.
All right, at this point, we want to give anybody or everybody that's new or changing positions to our school system an opportunity to introduce themselves. We'll draw straws. Who gets to go first? There you go.
I'm Melanie Collier, and I am the new faculty at West Point Intermediate and at Harmony. And I absolutely love it.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Come on, girl.
My name is Brooke Swain. It's my first year teaching, and I'm at Harmony, and I'm teaching first grade, and I'm excited.
Welcome. She had a great science teacher in high school. I would just like to say that, too.
It was my favorite class.
Hey, there you go. There you're already been board approved. You don't have to say that now. Do what? Yeah, but she went to West Point and she had Dr. Barnett. Anyway. I'm sorry. Go ahead, dear. Coach Barnett. Glad to have you. Thank you. Listen to that. Anyone else? All right. Hey, welcome aboard. We're proud to have you guys, and we look forward to great things. Thank you.
Item number 15 through 28, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval of all the school requests listed in items 15 through 28.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion? Motion made. Fine. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say yes. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 29, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval of the team's contracts in item number 29.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, yes? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 30, Dr. Barnett.
I'd like to recommend the approval of the out-of-state field trips listed in item 30.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes? Any opposed, no? Motion passes. Item number 31, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval of the maintenance department items listed in 31.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes? Any opposed, no? Motion passes. Item number 32 and 33, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval of the financial items number 32 and 33.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion? Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes? Any opposed, no? Motion passes. Item number 34, Dr. Barnett.
Item number 34, as you look at it, it's a list of different people that we contract with for various reasons. Many of these are paid for out of grants and things that we receive, and we can bring these special services into some of our most severe special ed classrooms. But I'd like to recommend the approval of special ed contracts listed in item number 34.
I heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 35, Dr. Barnett.
Item number 35, I recommend the approval to purchase the base curriculum, and we're going to be paying this out of ESSER funds.
I heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Motion passes. Item number 36, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval to purchase a 2018 dump truck, VIN number listed on the agenda. Let's listen to number item 36.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion? Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Is it full of gas?
I hope so. It's got new tires and new brakes, and it looks pretty
All in
good.
favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion passes. Item number 37, Dr. Barnett.
And I will say, item 37 is our student handbook, and it's online, and it's had some changes to it, very minimal changes, but that's the reason we're approving it now. But I recommend the approval of the 24-25 student handbook listed in item 37.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Motion passes. Item number 38, Dr. Barnett.
I recommend the approval of board policies listed in item number 38.
Y'all heard Dr. Barnett's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Motion passes. Item number 39, Dr. Barnett, Superintendent Report.
First, I'd just like to report that we've gotten off to a smooth start, bringing all of our students back, and our school system's growing, and we've got great leadership, faculty and staff at all of our schools, so everything's been going well, and a lot of great instruction's already happening. It's crazy, we listed under the superintendent's report, we're off for Labor Day, but also the first progress reports will be coming out September 6th. And so we're just hitting the ground running, and we're excited about that.
All right, before we adjourn, I'd like to announce the next meeting, work session, Thursday, September the 12th, 2024. Work session 3:30, and meeting immediately following the work session. Item number 40, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So be it.
Second.
Yes, sir, second.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Let's go home.